Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Modcast episode 42.
That's supposed to be a very, sciencey, sci-fi sounding woo. Get it? Yes.
Alright.
It just sounded like you were dying.
Everyone dies in sci-fi. That's literally what the genre means. It means for everyone dies.
So speaking of sci-fi and being dead, I'm Waj.
I'm Slime.
I am John Smith, and I am attempting to sound even more morose than Marvin.
So, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a book, but it was first a radio play, a radio show, that was released a long time ago in the land of England, I think, right? I don't know.
Well, it starts out in England, and then the Earth gets blown up, so not too much of it takes place in England.
Yeah, I really like the whole start of The Hitchhiker's Guide, that they're trying to demolish Arthur Dent's house, and then the Earth gets demolished for an interstellar bypass. It's great.
Parallelism at work.
I actually just listened to the books last week. I had no real prior history with them. I'd been listening to the audiobooks.
I had a friend from a summer camp that I went to. He was really into The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and he would always talk about all the references, talk about, so long and thanks for all the fish, and what's the answer to the life of the universe and everything, 42, and don't forget your towel, all of the references. I never really got into it. I don't know why. I guess because I was 11, and by 11 I mean 13. I was at my library last year, perusing the audiobook section, as you do. I was looking for some new stuff to read, and I happened to come across The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the first book, and I was like, okay, I've never listened to this before. It's a well-known classic sci-fi series that everyone should listen to at some point. I was like, oh, well, sure, I'll just give it a shot. So then I gave it a shot, and I thought it was pretty good. John probably read it when he was -8 years old.
You know it. My first introduction to it was another kid at school who read it, and then around the same time, or maybe a year or two later, my local radio station started playing the original radio plays, and so that's what really got me hooked. And then I watched the movie a while after that, and then eventually I got the books and read those.
How was the audio plays in comparison to the books?
They have a full cast of actors and sound effects and music and whatnot.
Oh.
That sounds interesting.
Different voice actors for the characters, you mean?
Yeah.
Nice.
They're really fun to listen to.
Having never watched the movie, but knowing a lot about Martin Freeman, I feel like Martin Freeman is the perfect choice for Arthur Dent. The way he always plays his characters is he's the extremely British, the very I want to stay in my little bubble character. He plays that sort of character very well, and I feel like having never seen the movie, that was probably a good choice.
Yeah, he definitely has a shtick. And actually, well before the Hobbit movies came out, I was of the opinion that he would be a good choice to play Bilbo because of the Hitchhiker's Guide movie.
What do you guys think of the characters? Because I find a lot of the ones that you initially meet, like Ford and Arthur, aren't as intriguing as, say, Zaphod Beeblebrox. Or just, I don't know, entertaining, I suppose. Like Marvin, the depressed android.
Yeah, Zaphod and Marvin are probably the best characters. In the movie, they got Sam Rockwell to play Zaphod Beeblebrox, and if you know who that is, he's just the perfect person for the part. Did you hear the part about time travel and the confusion it causes grammatically? That's one of my favorite parts in the whole series, just because time travel is such a common trope, and it's kind of ridiculous and often doesn't make sense if you think about it, but people usually don't think about it. So I think it's just a really good way to make fun of it without being mean-spirited.
Say with the restaurant at the end of the universe, it gets really complex. It gets really complicated, and they're yeah, it does that, well, whatever. And it's a restaurant. Why is it a restaurant? Because there's a lot of absurd concepts.
Indeed. Absurdism was a big inspiration for Douglas Adams, and yeah, it shows.
We sort of speculate about what could be out there. We're sort of in awe of the wonders of the universe, and this sort of brings it to a casual happenstance.
One thing that I initially very disliked about the book was how everything just sort of built builds up and then just immediately falls apart in a way as far as the plot goes. Like, the whole building up the planet as being a computer, the supercomputer, and I was gonna figure out what the answer to the question was, and then at the end of it, it's just like, no, it really didn't matter in the end.
It's like, stuff is just going crazy, and he pulls out, like, Scrabble tiles, and it just, like, spells out the question, which is just literally, what is 6 times 7?
Yeah, like, part of the point is that just going off the information that they have, the question and answer don't make any sense. And I don't necessarily agree with Douglas Adams' worldview that, like, everything is pointless and you should just laugh at everything. But I think in practice, a lot of times we want answers and can't get them. So I think it's still relatable for most people.
I just found it very annoying at the time.
But you're supposed to.
Yeah, I know. Now you're supposed to. Now that I look back on it, it's just like, okay, yeah. I was just reminded of the introduction to, is it the first book or the second book? Where it's, in the beginning, the universe was created. This has been regarded as a generally bad move.
I want to say that was the second one, but I'm not sure.
I think the whole concept of having the heart of gold with the improbability drive, like, it just highlights every single absurd thing in sci-fi. Because everything is probable to a certain degree.
It can go to the multiverse of different possibilities, and the possibilities that you find are quite strange.
I like how he kind of makes fun of human nature. I think it's at the beginning of the third book when they explain that the first humans on Earth were actually, like, annoying people who'd been exiled from another planet because basically the people thought they were boring and, like, they did all the grunt work or whatever. But then the people on that planet all died off from a plague because they got rid of the people who did the grunt work. What did you think about the random sort of plot twist about the guy who keeps getting reincarnated and killed by Arthur Dent? That's another one of my absolute favorite things.
That was a great way to tie back the potted plant.
John, so you watched the movies. How are they? Are they any good?
There's just one movie. A lot of people don't like it because it has, I guess, more of a broad style of comedy than the books and the radio plays do. But I still think it's pretty funny, and for a movie adaptation, I don't really know what else you would expect. It also has this really, really, really hilarious gag that's only in the movie, and I don't want to give it away. But they go to the Vogon homeworld, and things happen there that are truly magical. There's also a text adventure game from the 1980s.
Oh, yes! I have seen
that's
that.
Right.
Yeah, I've played a little bit of it, and it's amazingly hard to get anywhere.
Isn't it like if you mess up on one thing, then you just lose and have to start the whole thing over?
Yep, and as I recall, there's more than several, a ton of ways in which you can die horribly right at the beginning, and it's hilarious. I feel like it's hard to discuss this because there's not that much to disagree about. It's just all really funny.
For me, at least, it's kind of hard to approach it in the same way that I approach other kinds of media. A lot of it is just centered around that sort of absurd comedy.
You can't really, like, discuss the humor so much of it. You just sort of have to experience it for yourself. So, if you haven't read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, do it. It's good. It's funny.
I think it's so hard to discuss because ultimately the plot and characters are there primarily for the sake of making jokes.
Right, yeah. It's very comedy-centric, which makes it difficult. It's like, how do you analyze a joke and, like, discuss, oh, well, I thought this joke was funny.
Like the intro. Space, it says, is big. Really big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. I mean, you may think it's a long way down the road to the chemist, but that just peanuts to space. That's like the actual intro to the book, the actual Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as well, which is really cool. It's like a meta sort of joke, because the actual book starts with that, and the in-universe book also starts with that same thing.
Anyone else got any closing comments, concerns?
Don't forget your towel.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for listening to this 5-minute episode.
It's the shortest modcast.
Yeah.
Don't panic.